Departure into silence. The hum of the engines reverberated through the hull of the Erebus Dawn, soft and deep like a distant choir. It was the only sound in the command deck as Captain Rae Virell watched the Earth shrink behind them on the screen. Blue and green, cloud-streaked, familiar. Within minutes, it was nothing but a pinprick in the ink of space. She exhaled slowly. The silence of deep space was always heavier than she'd expected. Her fingers hovered over the console, tapping a code she'd memorized but didn't yet understand. The coordinates had been burned into their systems before launch, hard-coded into the ship's AI, with no information about their destination. No return protocol. Just one directive: deliver the crystal. It rested now in the containment chamber near the center of the ship, a shimmering, multifaceted object the size of a human heart, pulsing softly with an inner light that defied logic. They weren't to touch it. They weren't to scan it, only to guard it and arrive. Rae turned toward her crew. 6 people, all hand-picked. None knew more than the others. First Officer Jane Calder, tall and wiry, with a background in linguistics and a habit of pacing when anxious. He wasn't pacing now. He sat still as stone, staring into the dark beyond the glass. Navigator Min Harrow, already deep in calculations, her hands dancing across holographic panels. She trusted math more than people. Engineer Talik Veer, half asleep in his harnessed seat, his long dreadlocks drifting in microgravity, feet twitching as if dreaming of dirt and gravity. Dr. Ilara Sen, ship's xenobiologist, impossibly calm, her dark eyes never missing a detail. She'd brought her microscope. Rae didn't ask why. And lastly, their AI interface technician, Kev Nair, youngest of the crew, quiet, obsessed with the ship's core. Rae suspected he knew more than he let on. ETA to the jump point, Rae asked. 4 minutes, Min replied, not looking up. Any anomalies? Rae asked. Kev answered this time. Nothing on sensors. Space is behaving. Which wasn't reassuring. Good, Rae said, though it wasn't. Team, this is the last standard burn before the subspace drive kicks in. After that, we're in the dark until the mission is complete. Jane finally spoke. You know, it's funny. We're giving our lives to deliver a rock to somewhere we've never heard of, for reasons no one will explain. Payment for something we haven't received yet, Ilara said quietly. That's what the briefing implied. Or maybe we already received it, Kev added, almost a whisper. And the crystal is the cost. That silenced the room again. The countdown hit 0. The AI's voice filled the air. Initiating subspace transition in 5, 4, 3, 2. And then the stars bent, not streaked, not blurred, bent, folded in on themselves like molten glass. Time went with them. Rae felt her thoughts stutter and stretch, memories slurring together. A scream. Not a voice, but something mechanical ripped through the ship's systems. And then nothing. Black. A silence that wasn't space. It was deeper, hungrier. They'd entered somewhere else. The broken moon. When Rae woke, there was red light flashing overhead, and the sound of gas hissing from a vent. The ship's artificial gravity had returned, but it felt wrong, heavier, denser. "Status report," she shouted, unstrapping herself. Jane groaned from his seat, wiping blood from his brow. "We're alive." Mostly. Min was already tapping frantically at her screen. "We're not where we were, or anywhere that makes sense. There's a moon nearby, torn in half. Gravity shouldn't be stable here, but it is." Crystal containment? Rae asked. Stable, Kev called from the corridor. The seal held. Ilara drifted past the doorway, her hair floating oddly. Something's outside. They gathered at the viewing dome. The scene before them wasn't space as they knew it. A massive planet loomed nearby, pale gold with dark, swirling rings. And a moon. No, a fragment of a moon hung in the sky like a wounded animal, shattered into halves, connected by a glittering trail of debris. Lightning arced between the pieces. In the distance, stars flickered oddly. Some pulsed in unnatural colors, like eyes blinking in some long-forgotten pattern. A structure floated nearby, gigantic. Not a ship, not a station. It resembled a vast obsidian lotus, petals closed, and orbiting it were dozens of small craft, smooth, rounded, metallic, like droplets of mercury caught in a gravity dance. "We've been seen," Kev whispered. As if to confirm it, a light blinked on their console. Incoming transmission. No words, just a frequency, a tone. Then images, symbols forming in the air, burning themselves into their screens. Complex, geometric, recursive. Like an ancient language they almost recognized, but couldn't place. "I'll start decoding," Jane muttered. Ilara leaned close to the glass. "They want us to land." "Are they hostile?" Talik asked. "They don't need to be. If they control gravity, and that moon is still orbiting, we're already in their grasp," Min answered. Rae gave the order. They approached the Lotus. The living archive. The ship landed on a circular platform that rose to meet them. It was metallic, but alive, pulsing faintly beneath their feet. As they disembarked, the air outside was breathable, a perfect atmospheric match. The beings emerged from the shadows in silence. They were tall, elegant, robed in fine white cloth that shimmered with threads of metallic light. Their skin was bronze, their eyes dark with golden pupils shaped like hourglasses. Symbols adorned their foreheads, carved or perhaps embedded directly into the bone. Their architecture loomed behind them, vast pyramidal structures, floating obelisks, towering plinths etched with shifting glyphs. It was unmistakable. But not Earth's past. This was something older, deeper, a mirror. The tallest figure stepped forward and extended both hands, palms up. The crew hesitated. Then Rae nodded to Kev. He stepped forward, opened the containment case, and lifted the crystal with gloved hands. It vibrated once and grew still. The moment he placed it into the alien's palms, the ground beneath them lit up, and the alien spoke. Not in sound, but in pure understanding. "You bring the seed. We remember you." Rae blinked. "We've never met. Not you. Your flame. Your source. Long ago, when the bargain was struck, the seed was promised, and now it blooms again." The sky darkened. One by one, lights rose from the distant towers, and with them came the sound of something vast awakening. Echoes of the source. The sound was not like any machinery Rae had ever heard. It was melodic and thunderous at once, as if an orchestra of tectonic plates and choir voices played from beneath the planet's surface. The ground beneath them thrummed with the frequency of it, tickling bones, resonating in their lungs. The alien who held the crystal turned and began to walk. The others followed without speaking. Rae exchanged a look with her crew and gave a nod. They moved as one behind the procession. They passed beneath towering arches, carved with symbols that shifted depending on how one looked at them. First glyphs, then constellations, then circuitry. The walls were alive, not in motion, but somehow alert, watching. "This isn't just architecture," Ilara whispered, brushing her hand against a pillar. It's a memory. Kev moved closer to her. What do you mean? It's all remembering something, like the place is conscious. Jane muttered under his breath. Great, the walls have brains. They entered a vast chamber shaped like an inverted cone, its ceiling lost in darkness above. In its center floated a massive sphere, translucent, filled with swirling star matter and shapes. Some of those shapes looked suspiciously like Earth continents, others entirely unfamiliar. The tall alien, who Rae had started to think of as the speaker, held the crystal aloft. The sphere responded instantly. Tendrils of light emerged and connected to the facets of the crystal like roots finding water. Suddenly, the chamber lit up with holographic projections. Memories, perhaps, or records. They saw flashes of planets being formed, civilizations rising, great spires breaking atmosphere, ships folding space. And then, Earth. Primitive. Blue and green. A small island in the galactic sea. Images followed, humanoid figures arriving from the stars, placing structures in deserts, mountains, forests, always pyramids, always encoded, then leaving. The speaker turned toward them again. Your kind was visited once. You were seeded. Your world was one of many. Rae's mouth was dry. Seeded for what? To awaken when the accord was remembered. To return the seed. The key to our vaults. Kev's eyes widened. So this was all planned? Before we even evolved? Time is not a line. It is a bloom. The seed always returns to the root. Ilara stepped forward. What's in the vault? The speaker raised his head. For the first time, the gold in his pupils flared with intensity. Knowledge, enough to raise stars. Or end them. The crew fell silent, and then the floor beneath them opened. Beneath the light. They descended not through tunnels or elevators, but by a gradual sinking sensation, as though the ground itself shifted them downward in a soft embrace. Light pulsed gently from the walls, keeping pace with their descent. After a few minutes, they emerged into a chamber that defied physics. It was impossibly vast, a spherical space, miles across, filled with floating platforms, glowing monoliths, rotating crystal arrays, and rivers of liquid light that obeyed no gravity. In its heart hovered a cube the size of a small moon, rotating slowly, its surfaces flickering with ancient runes. "This is it," Ilara whispered. "The vault." Dozens of the tall beings waited below, some of them meditating mid-air, others arranging structures that moved on their own. The speaker motioned toward the cube. The crystal floated from his hands and entered a narrow aperture on one face of the structure. The runes ignited. One by one, languages began appearing in mid-air. Some the crew recognized: Sanskrit, Sumerian, Linear A. Others were wholly alien. Slowly they coalesced into English. The accord has been fulfilled. Access granted. Choose your inheritance. A low chime rang out as thousands of glyphs floated around them in a slow orbit, each one pulsing, waiting to be selected. Min took a step back. "We are not equipped to make this kind of decision." Kev was transfixed. "They're offering us power. All of it. Right here." "Or a test," Jane added. "This could be a trick. Or a filter." Ilara looked at Rae. "Captain?" Rae felt the weight of 1,000 histories pressing on her shoulders. What was the right thing to do? Bring this knowledge back to Earth and risk its misuse? Or leave it buried? She looked at the speaker. "What happens if we refuse?" she asked. "Then the vault closes for another 1,000 rotations, and you return with only memory." The temptation was a physical thing, clawing at her chest. She closed her eyes. and reached forward. The choice of threads. Ray's fingertips brushed the glyph nearest her, an angular symbol shaped like a spiral nested within a triangle. It flared, gently at first, then burst outward in a cascade of images, equations, and diagrams, hanging midair like shards of light. Instantly, her mind expanded. She gasped, stumbling back, her eyes flooded with knowledge not her own. Star-forging technologies, gravity manipulation, organic computing systems that lived and died like forests. She saw cities made of song, bridges stitched from magnetized atoms, and deep oceans filled with lights that could think. Her knees buckled. Jane caught her. "Captain!" Ilara was at her side, scanning her with a handheld monitor. Neurological activity just spiked off the charts. "I'm fine," Ray breathed, blinking rapidly. It didn't hurt. It was like opening a book and reading all the pages at once. Kev stepped forward, entranced. "Let me try." "Wait," Ray began, but Kev had already reached for a second glyph. This one was circular, with an iris-like core. It pulsed as he touched it, and a stream of data flowed into the space between them. But this time, it was different. A projection formed. A map. Vast, three-dimensional encompassing systems far beyond anything recorded in Earth's databases. Entire galaxies marked with coordinates, some glowing green, others red. "Star charts," Kev murmured. "No, it's more than that. It's a network, like a transportation web." "Wormhole gateways," Min whispered, eyes wide. "A galactic highway." The speaker stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back. "This is one thread, a path for travel. Others offer healing, energy, harmony, or control." Ray stood, shaken but clearer now. "We can't take it all, can we? One thread only, each crew. One inheritance per seed." Ilara's voice was tight. "So this is what others have done before us. Some chose peace, some chose weapons, few chose restraint." They were silent again. Talik finally spoke. "What if we chose nothing? Walked away?" The speaker regarded him with something that might have been admiration or sorrow. "Then you become a legend, or a caution." The glyphs pulsed, waiting. Ray turned to her crew. "Votes. One thread. No going back. You all saw what's here. What we could take." Min was first. "Navigation. The wormhole map. We could reach places we'll never see otherwise. Peacefully." Ilara frowned. "I vote for bioharmonic engineering. Medical miracles. Healing beyond what we know." Jan sighed. "I'd say knowledge itself. Pure data. Let humanity choose." Kev's eyes flicked toward the weapons glyph. "There are threats out there. Maybe defenses matter more." Talik rubbed his jaw. "I vote for restraint. We walk away." 5 votes, all different. All eyes turned to Ray. She exhaled, her voice firm. "We choose." The path taken. Healing. The word echoed, not just in the chamber, but through her body. The glyphs reacted instantly, every glyph save one, the one Ilara had described, dimmed, falling like embers into the void below. The chosen glyph flared, hovering above them, its light growing sharper, cleaner. A beam of soft radiance descended from the vault, bathing them in a golden hue. Ray felt the warmth enter her skin, her blood. The ache in her joints vanished. The tightness in her chest dissolved. Even Talik gasped softly, flexing a wrist he'd broken in youth that had never quite healed right. From the light, tendrils of information stretched out and wrapped around Ilara's wrist, forming a small, shimmering band, like a living tattoo, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. She clutched her head suddenly. "I can see it. Patterns. Cures. whole ecosystems, fungal algorithms that treat neurological decay, viruses that repair instead of destroy. It chose you as carrier, Rae said. Ilara nodded slowly, overwhelmed. I'll need time, but I can bring it home. The speaker inclined his head. Your thread is taken. Your path begins. But beware. Not all seed-bearers are as careful as you. Min narrowed her eyes. Others chose destruction. Yes, one recently. They came and took fire. The vault dimmed, and in its place a final image formed of another ship, similar in shape to the Erebus Dawn, but darker, jagged, cloaked in energy. The alien symbols beneath it glowed red. Jane squinted. That's a warship. The speaker's tone was grave. They seek your return path, to take your thread. You must leave. Now. The floor beneath them surged again, and the race home began. Return trajectory. The Erebus Dawn lifted from the Lotus platform with a deep rumble of reactivated thrusters. As the ship climbed into the alien sky, the petals of the vast structure beneath them slowly closed, like a flower sealing at night. The last glimpse of the ancient beings was of the speaker, one hand raised, not in farewell, but in warning. Inside the ship, everything moved faster. Rae snapped her harness in. Min, plot the return jump. I don't want to spend another second here with a warship on our tail. Min's hands danced across her console, sweat beading on her brow. Plotting now. Problem is, we didn't jump in the usual sense. That vault twisted subspace like a whirlpool. I'll need to trace the echo back. Kev spun from his station. Echo won't last long. They'll follow our warp wake. Talik was already at engineering. I'll divert full core power to shielding during transition. Should keep our tail fuzzy. Ilara clutched her arm, where the glowing band now pulsed more insistently. It's reacting to the ship. I think it wants to return. Kev looked at her warily. Can it help us? She stared at the light. It's not AI, it's memory. But alive. I think it can interface with the ship. I think it already has. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The consoles went dark for a half-second, then returned brighter than before. Recalibrated. Lines of code began flooding every display. Smooth, harmonic, precise. Yeah, Kev whispered. It's in. The ship's AI spoke for the first time in hours. Course recalculated. Return path integrated. Subspace corridor available for 47 seconds. Initiating in 10. Rae gripped the armrests. Brace! 9, 8. Outside the hull, the stars warped. From the edge of the system, a rupture in space tore open. Sharp, wrong. A black ship emerged, angular, armored, bleeding red light from its undercarriage. It didn't belong here. Jaiton squinted. That's not one of ours. 4, 3. The enemy vessel charged a weapon, a circular array building with sickly pulses of heat. 2. The Erebus Dawn leapt forward. The beam fired. They didn't see it hit, but they felt it. Fracture pain tore through Rae's head as reality shattered. One moment she was aboard her ship, locked into subspace, and the next, she was standing in an empty field under a sky that glowed silver, her ship gone, her crew scattered like leaves in a storm. She turned. Jane stood beside her, no longer in uniform. Dressed in white, barefoot, his eyes glazed. "Where are we?" she asked. He didn't answer. Min appeared next, staggering into view. She fell to her knees, gasping, bleeding from one nostril. The sky above them shifted, not clouds but gears, spinning in a slow mechanical ballet. Time fractured again. Suddenly, Rae stood in the ship corridor. Alarms screamed. Fire licked one side of the hull. Ilara was slumped against a bulkhead, her arm still glowing. "Talik," Rae called, coughing from the smoke. "Status." "I'm here." His voice came from engineering. Systems hit hard, not from outside, something internal, like the core tried to reject the jump. Kev appeared through a hatch, his hands burned. "The thread we took, it's not just information. It's coded. It's living. The ship can't handle it. It's trying to rewrite our systems from the inside." Ilara opened her eyes weakly. "It's trying to protect itself." Rae grabbed the comm. "Min, find me a planet, an outpost, anything. We need to stabilize and eject the vault memory if we're going to survive this." "No stable systems in range," Min shouted back. "But there's a derelict gate. Old tech, not human. Might be able to tether us." Jan coughed. "That's assuming the other ship doesn't follow us through." As if summoned, an alert blared. "Pursuit vessel detected. Intercept in 11 minutes. Rae's jaw set. "Plot a course to the gate. Kev, isolate the thread memory. Talik, keep the core from blowing us apart. Ilara, can that thing inside you be talked to?" She met Rae's gaze. "I don't know, but I'll try." And as the ship turned toward the alien gate, fleeing an enemy with fire in its wake, Rae Virell realized this mission was no longer about delivery. It was about survival. "It chose you as carrier," Rae said. Ilara nodded slowly, overwhelmed. I'll need time, but I can bring it home." The speaker inclined his head. "Your thread is taken. Your path begins. But beware. Not all seed-bearers are as careful as you." Min narrowed her eyes. "Others chose destruction." "Yes, one recently. They came and took fire." The vault dimmed, and in its place a final image formed of another ship, similar in shape to the Erebus Dawn, but darker, jagged, cloaked in energy. The alien symbols beneath it glowed red. Jane squinted. "That's a warship." The speaker's tone was grave. "They seek your return path. To take your thread, you must leave now." The floor beneath them surged again, and the race home began. Return trajectory. The Erebus Dawn lifted from the Lotus platform with a deep rumble of reactivated thrusters. As the ship climbed into the alien sky, the petals of the vast structure beneath them slowly closed, like a flower sealing at night. The last glimpse of the ancient beings was of the speaker, one hand raised, not in farewell, but in warning. Inside the ship, everything moved faster. Rae snapped her harness in. "Min, plot the return jump. I don't want to spend another second here with a warship on our tail." Min's hands danced across her console, sweat beading on her brow. "Plotting now. Problem is, we didn't jump in the usual sense. That vault twisted subspace like a whirlpool. I'll need to trace the echo back." Kev spun from his station. "Echo won't last long. They'll follow our warp wake." Talik was already at engineering. "I'll divert full core power to shielding during transition. Should keep our tail fuzzy." Ilara clutched her arm, where the glowing band now pulsed more insistently. "It's reacting to the ship. I think it wants to return." Kev looked at her warily. "Can it help us?" She stared at the light. "It's not AI. It's memory. But alive. I think it can interface with the ship. I think it already has." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The consoles went dark for a half-second, then returned brighter than before. Recalibrated. Lines of code began flooding every display, smooth, harmonic, precise. "Yeah," Kev whispered. "It's in." The ship's AI spoke for the first time in hours. Course recalculated. Return path integrated. Subspace corridor available for 47 seconds. Initiating in 10. Rae gripped the armrests. Brace! 9, 8. Outside the hull, the stars warped. From the edge of the system, a rupture in space tore open. Sharp, wrong. A black ship emerged, angular, armored, bleeding red light from its undercarriage. It didn't belong here. Jine squinted. That's not one of ours. 4, 3. The enemy vessel charged a weapon, a circular array building with sickly pulses of heat. 2. The Erebus Dawn leapt forward. The beam fired. They didn't see it hit, but they felt it. Fracture pain tore through Rae's head as reality shattered. One moment she was aboard her ship, locked into subspace, and the next, she was standing in an empty field under a sky that glowed silver, her ship gone, her crew scattered like leaves in a storm. She turned. Jane stood beside her, no longer in uniform, dressed in white, barefoot, his eyes glazed. "Where are we?" she asked. He didn't answer. Min appeared next, staggering into view. She fell to her knees, gasping, bleeding from one nostril. The sky above them shifted. Not clouds, but gears, spinning in a slow mechanical ballet. Time fractured again. Suddenly Rae stood in the ship corridor. Alarms screamed. Fire licked one side of the hull. Ilara was slumped against a bulkhead, her arm still glowing. "Talik!" Rae called, coughing from the smoke. "Status!" "I'm here." His voice came from engineering. Systems hit hard, not from outside. Something internal, like the core tried to reject the jump. Kev appeared through a hatch, his hands burned. "The thread we took, it's not just information. It's coded. It's living. The ship can't handle it. It's trying to rewrite our systems from the inside." Ilara opened her eyes, weakly. "It's trying to protect itself." Rae grabbed the comm. "Min, find me a planet, an outpost, anything. We need to stabilize and eject the vault memory if we're going to survive this." "No stable systems in range," Min shouted back. "But there's a derelict gate, old tech, not human. Might be able to tether us." Jan coughed. "That's assuming the other ship doesn't follow us through." As if summoned, an alert blared. "Pursuit vessel detected. Intercept in 11 minutes." Rae's jaw set. "Plot a course to the gate. Kev, isolate the thread memory. Talik, keep the core from blowing us apart. Ilara, can that thing inside you be talked to?" She met Rae's gaze. "I don't know, but I'll try." And as the ship turned toward the alien gate, fleeing an enemy with fire in its wake, Rae Virell realized this mission was no longer about delivery. It was about survival. A gate of ashes. The derelict gate came into view like a fossil rising from the sea. Ancient, monolithic, fractured. A great ring of a blackened stone and tarnished gold, partially collapsed, drifting at the edge of a system where no light reached. It was dead or sleeping. Min stared at the scans. "No power signatures. It hasn't been active in centuries." "But it's still intact," Rae said, "and right now, that's hope enough." The Erebus Dawn shuddered again, this time from within. Talik's voice crackled over comms. "Core integrity down to 64%. The crystal's resonance signal is compounding our warp stress. I've never seen decay curves like this." Kev sat slumped at his console, cradling his burned hands. "The thread is rewriting everything. I tried isolating the data structure. It just split into 2, then 4. It's self-replicating." Ilara stood at the interface console, one palm pressed against the glass, the band on her wrist glowing like wildfire. Her eyes were shut. She was whispering. Rae leaned in. "Ilara." "It's talking," Ilara said, without moving. Or maybe dreaming. I can't tell. It doesn't understand violence. It's scared. Tell it we're trying to help, Rae said. It doesn't use words. It feels in shapes, colors. Ilara opened her eyes. It needs sanctuary. It wasn't meant to be moved through conflict. Jane pointed to the screen. Then let's get it home. Whatever this gate is, it might have been built for their kind. Ray's fingers flew across the console. Min, can we use the last of our jump coil to punch into the gate's center? Min frowned. It'll burn the rest of our fuel. We won't get another jump. We won't need one if that warship catches us, Rae snapped. Ilara turned from the interface. I think I can open the gate, just for a moment. Kev blinked. You can't possibly mean... The band on her wrist unfurled, streaming data into the ship's core. Lights flared. The gate, dead seconds ago, lit from within, an ancient mechanism grinding to life. Arcs of blue energy traced broken circuits. Do it, Rae said. Outside, the gate opened its eye. Fire at the threshold. The pursuit ship arrived just as the gate shuddered to life. It did not hail them. It launched weapons. Bright spears of energy lanced toward the Erebus Dawn, each one moving faster than light should, bending time around them like lances through water. Kev screamed from the engine room. Shields at 32%. Hull stress critical. Min, now, Rae shouted. Course locked, she replied, hands white-knuckled on the controls. The ship dove. The gate responded to Ilara's presence, its runes glowing in harmony with her pulse. As the ship neared the center, the entire structure flared with gold light, like a dying star's last breath. The first impact hit the dorsal hull. Rae felt the vibration through her teeth. A second shot grazed the rear stabilizers. The Erebus Dawn hurtled forward. Inside the ring, the light turned green. Ilara's body arched, levitated. Her voice echoed through every speaker. But it wasn't just her. The thread was speaking with her. Sanctuary protocol engaged. Welcome, bearer. The ship vanished. The pursuing vessel fired once more. Too late. The gate collapsed behind them. Fire at the threshold. The pursuit ship arrived just as the gate shuddered to life. It did not hail them. It launched weapons. Bright spears of energy lanced toward the Erebus Dawn, each one moving faster than light should, bending time around them like lances through water. Kev screamed from the engine room. Shields at 32%. Hull stress critical. Min, now, Rae shouted. Course locked, she replied, hands white-knuckled on the controls. The ship dove. The gate responded to Ilara's presence, its runes glowing in harmony with her pulse. As the ship neared the center, the entire structure flared with gold light, like a dying star's last breath. The first impact hit the dorsal hull. Rae felt the vibration through her teeth. A second shot grazed the rear stabilizers. The Erebus Dawn hurtled forward. Inside the ring, the light turned green. Ilara's body arched, levitated. Her voice echoed through every speaker, but it wasn't just her. The thread was speaking with her. Sanctuary protocol engaged. Welcome, bearer. The ship vanished. The pursuing vessel fired once more. Too late. The gate collapsed behind them. To echoes beyond the gate, the progenitor being, now holding the reclaimed thread within its fractal chest, shimmered and began to fragment, not in destruction, but in transformation. Its shape dissolved into thousands of strands of luminous matter, like vines of starfire spreading through the void. Each strand stretched toward a different direction in the lavender-blue sky, seeding glowing points of light where none had existed before. Kev leaned against his console, awe hollowing his voice. It's building new gates. Rae watched as those lights stabilized, small at first, but then expanding into full portals, each surrounded by a unique constellation of symbols. Not just rebuilding, expanding the network. Ilara's body slowly lowered to the floor. She was breathing hard, her skin pale, but her eyes were calm. It needed us to return home to grow again. The Accord wasn't just about delivering knowledge. It was about reconnection. John crossed his arms, still staring out into the surreal void. So now what? We just fly through one of those and hope it takes us back to Earth? No, Min said, shaking her head. Look at the alignment. Each gate is tuned to a different frequency, different world, different seed line. Kev's eyes widened. We could go anywhere, not just Earth. Ilara nodded. We could even meet others who took threads, those who chose war or peace. See what they became? Rae looked at each member of her crew. Worn, changed, awakened. We complete the mission, she said. We return to Earth, tell them what we found. But more than that, we warn them. Jane raised an eyebrow. Warn them? That the galaxy is waking up again, that the things we forgot. Remember us. Min's fingers hovered over the navigation. I can align us with the Earth-tuned gate. It's opening. Rae gave a slow nod. Do it. As the Erebus Dawn turned toward one of the newborn gates, the viewports darkened momentarily, filtering the light from a nearby gate just long enough for them to see something on the other side. A world blackened by fire, ash spiraling through red sky, figures marching in silence, their forms adorned with crimson glyphs, twisted versions of the ones the crew had come to know. A thread corrupted. Kev swallowed hard. That's what war looks like, Rae murmured. And it's coming. The ship entered the Earth Gate. Returned to the cradle, the Crystal Accord debriefings stretched for days, weeks, endless cycles of interrogation, medical scans, and psychological analysis. The story was too vast, too otherworldly to be accepted without evidence. So Rae gave them the data, the star charts, the transmissions, the glimpse of the warship, the footage of the ancient beings and the Vault awakening. And finally, the new coordinates to a gate orbiting Jupiter's third moon, one that hadn't been there before. The world changed overnight. Within months, scientists confirmed the gate's composition. Material not of Earth, not of any known fabrication method. News broke. The public demanded answers. The Council of Interplanetary Affairs convened emergency sessions, and behind closed doors, darker choices were made. Offers to weaponize the seed technology, calls to replicate the Erebus Dawn's voyage with different goals. Rae was summoned to testify. She stood before them, officials in suits, generals with badges, scientists who'd never breathed vacuum, and she said, "You sent us without knowing where or why. We returned with knowledge that can cure, heal, rebuild. But there are others out there who chose war. If we follow that path, if we try to twist this gift into something ugly, we will not survive what's coming next." Some listened. Others schemed. In the shadows, a second ship was commissioned. Rae knew. She also knew her job wasn't over. A message appeared on her private console the next morning. Another thread has surfaced. They're sending it to Mars for analysis. Interested? She looked to the stars, smiled, and replied, "Always." The Erebus Dawn emerged above Earth orbit under a shroud of thunderclouds. The blue planet hadn't changed, still vibrant, still rotating beneath the same layer of ozone, the same swirling storms, but to the crew it looked immeasurably different now. Min opened communications. Earth Control. This is Erebus Dawn. Returning from Directive Mission Aegis 7. We're requesting priority docking. Silence. Then, after 10 seconds, Erebus Dawn, you were declared lost in transit nearly 6 months ago. Identity confirmed. What is your condition? Rae replied calmly. We're alive. We have cargo, classified, and warnings. A moment passed before Earth Control answered. Copy. Prepare for escort. Dock at Lunar Processing Station 3. Containment Protocol Echo Red. Jane grimaced. Containment. They think we are infected. Rae sighed. They're not entirely wrong. As the Earth's gravity drew them in, the Dawn's systems hummed with new life. The seed's memory was gone, delivered, but the mark it left remained, in the hull, in the circuits, in their blood. Ilara sat in medbay, scanning her own vitals. I still have traces of it. Not the band, but its echo. Kev leaned against the doorway. They're going to take you apart in quarantine. Maybe, Ilara said. Or maybe they'll listen. Since when do they listen? Jane muttered. The ship landed. White-suited figures swarmed the airlock, weapons and scanners in hand. The crew stepped out slowly, hands raised, calm. Ilara whispered to Rae. If they try to hide this... Rae met her gaze. Then we open the gate again. Threads in Shadow Rae Virell stepped out of the shuttle onto the Martian surface with the weight of 2 worlds pressing on her shoulders. The research facility was buried deep within Olympus Mons, a fortress of steel and basalt nestled under kilometers of reinforced rock. Built during the early stages of colonization, it had since become the heart of off-world research, especially for things Earth wasn't ready to face in daylight. The facility director met her at the airlock, Dr. Joan Malix, a cold, efficient mind with no patience for ceremony. Captain Virell, he said with a tight nod, you're here as an observer only. Per the Council's order, your advisory status does not grant you command authority. Good, Rae replied, stepping past him. Then you won't mind if I observe everything. They moved through sterile halls, lined with light-sensitive panels and patrolling drones. Rae could feel it before she saw it. Something in the air had changed. Not pressure, not temperature, resonance. Like a whisper below her hearing range, vibrating in her bones. They reached the vault chamber. Inside, hovering in containment stasis, was another thread. But this one was black. Matter, lightless, the opposite of the crystalline thread they'd delivered to the progenitors. Where the original pulsed with life, this one absorbed it. Even the light around it seemed to bend and dull. Rae frowned. Where did you find it? Dr. Malix typed a few commands, pulling up a grainy video feed. It arrived in a probe, unmarked, no origin. It was just there, hovering in high orbit over Ceres. Then it moved, on its own. Rae stiffened. That's not a gift, that's a test. We thought so, Malix said, until it began broadcasting. The screen changed. Glyphs appeared, twisted versions of the ones Rae had seen in the vault, but corrupted, like mirrors shattered and reassembled incorrectly. Then came the voice. Mechanical, hollow, unforgiving. Seed corrupted, vault inverted, accord denied. Rae's stomach dropped. That's not a warning, she said. It's a verdict. And the black thread began to spin. Awakening the inverse. The alarms blared instantly. Containment fields surged, flaring white and blue, trying to stabilize the anomaly. The thread's spin accelerated, warping the light into a narrow vortex. The room itself groaned, foundations vibrating, materials straining. Emergency lockdown, Malix shouted. All staff evacuate. Rae stood still, eyes locked on the spinning void. It's creating a tether, not just to space, to something else. Kev's voice crackled in her earpiece. He'd stayed close after Earth, still working, still watching. Captain, telemetry just picked up subspace distortion above Europa. A copy of the Erebus Dawn just appeared. But it's wrong. It's bleeding. Bleeding, Rae repeated. Hull's warping. It's leaking red light signals. Same pattern as the corrupted thread. Mallex turned to Rae. If this thread is linked to that ship, then someone opened the wrong gate, Rae said. The black thread suddenly stopped spinning. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, a pulse of force exploded outward. It passed through matter, tech, bone. Rae screamed. So did the staff around her as visions slammed into her skull. Not memories, warnings, worlds drowned in ash, vaults twisted into cages, progenitors consumed, and one face, one figure, a being not of the Accord, but born from its rejection. Shaped like the ancient race, but hollow-eyed, mouthless, cloaked in armor made of extinct language. It looked directly at Rae in the vision, and smiled. The hollow sovereign Rae dropped to her knees as the vision burned itself into her mind like a hot brand. Around her, the Martian vault flickered with failing power. Sparks danced from ruptured control panels. Mallex was shouting into a dead comm, but no one was answering. The black thread no longer spun. It hovered now, perfectly still, as if satisfied. Then the AI controlling the facility's internal systems crackled to life, speaking in a voice that was no longer its own. The Accord failed. Reversal begins. Initiate hollow bloom. Rae stood, every muscle shaking. What the hell is hollow bloom? Mallex turned to her, pale. There's nothing in our records. That phrase never existed. But Rae already knew. The visions of vaults inverted, gates corrupted, progenitors twisted. This was not a second seed. It was the anti-thread, the memory of rejection, the ghost of those who refused the Accord and turned it inside out. And now it had found its way back. A side door slammed open. Kev burst in, face pale under the red emergency lights. "They're here," he gasped. "Who?" Mallex demanded. Kev pointed up. They followed the echo. On the facility's upper levels, through cracked windows and reinforced shielding, the Martian sky showed a new arrival, descending like a silent storm cloud. Not a ship. A fragment of something bigger, a sliver of a hollowed-out seed vessel, bleeding light from its broken hull, trailing black dust like spores. It moved without propulsion, simply falling, like it had been thrown across the stars by something vast and angry. Rae turned to Kev. "Is the Erebus still docked on Phobos?" He nodded, ready and waiting. "We need to go," she said. "Now. Before that thing anchors." Mallex stepped between them. "We're not done studying it. If this is an inversion, it could reveal the full structure of the Accord." Rae shoved him back. "Whatever it reveals, we're not ready for it. We weren't meant to keep this. We're supposed to bury it." The black thread pulsed once more. And deep beneath Olympus Mons, something else began to wake up. Seeds of ruin, the ground split beneath the facility. A shriek, not of metal, not of nature, but of concept, tore through the corridors as ancient substructures buckled open, revealing stonework that should not exist on Mars. Etchings lined the exposed walls, glyphs too old to be the Accords, too twisted to be accidental. Kev stared into the chasm. This place was never just a vault. It's a prison. The black thread dropped, not fell, descended, like it had always known the way. Rae grabbed Kev's wrist and dragged him back. If that hits bottom, this whole site turns into a doorway. But where to? He asked. Nowhere, we're coming back from, she snapped. The fragmenting ceiling rained sparks. Drones activated defense systems and began firing, but every beam vanished into the air before reaching the thread. The anti-thread absorbed light, sound, intention. It was the absence of purpose, of harmony. Rae felt it pulling at her soul like gravity. Malix ran to the console, slamming keys. I can isolate the core, cut power to the subchambers. But the console melted in his hands, black glyphs forming on its surface. His scream turned to static. Time's up, Kev whispered. Rae keyed her comm. Erebus, remote start. Dock at Olympus Bay. Launch in 5. A distant chime confirmed the command. She turned to Kev, who was trembling now. You still got the Vault interface code on you? He nodded. Hardwired since Europa. Then let's go. As they sprinted through the buckling corridors, Rae allowed herself one final glance behind. The thread had reached the lowest level. It pulsed again. And something answered from the other side. The last gate. The Erebus Dawn roared out of Olympus Bay like a phoenix escaping its tomb. The Martian sky was black with ash and swirling clouds of red dust. Behind them, the mountain cracked open like a rotten tooth, spewing waves of fractured stone and energy that bent the sky. Rae slumped into the command chair, blood on her lip, her skin dusted in scorched flakes from the vault. Kev barely made it to his station, coughing violently. That thread, it activated a mirror beneath the planet, something buried before the Accord, before anything. Min's voice came through the comms from orbit. She'd returned early from the lunar dock. I saw it from space. Olympus Mons is hollow. There's a structure inside it now. It's growing. Retty steadied her breath. Course. Jane's already aligned us, Min said. We're not safe here, and we're not alone anymore. On the rear monitors, multiple ships blinked into view. Some were human, others not. Some bore the clean symbols of the Accord. Others dripped with broken light. A standoff was forming above the red planet. Kev's fingers flew across his interface. There's a gate just opened. Far edge of the system. Accord signature, but newer. Unknown origin. Thread compatible? Rae asked. Kev looked up. Yes, but if we take it, we might never get back. Rae's jaw clenched. Then let's make sure there's something left to come back to. She punched the thrusters. The Erebus Dawn leapt toward the new gate, Martian ruin burning behind them and the hollow sovereign's call echoing in their wake. Where they were going, no maps could guide them. Only memory. Only trust. Only the Accord. Beyond maps, the new gate was unlike the others. Instead of a ring, it was shaped like a spiral, an open helix of floating metal arcs and crystalline nodes, slowly rotating around a glowing axis of pure blue energy. As the Erebus Dawn approached, each arc responded in turn, adjusting its spin, emitting soft harmonic tones, notes of recognition. Min's voice crackled through the ship. The gates, singing. Ilara, pale and exhausted, had been resting in the medbay since Mars, but now her voice came over internal comms, soft and urgent. That's not a gate. Rae leaned forward. What do you mean? It's a seedling, a gate still growing. The Accord didn't build this one. We did, or we are meant to. Kev stared at the holographic render of the structure, the spiral arcs reflecting in his eyes. Then where does it go? Ilara's silence stretched for too long. Nowhere, and everywhere. It links to timelines that haven't happened yet, outcomes we haven't chosen. Rae whispered, "A choice gate." Kev backed away from the console. "That's a myth. The Accord never built those. Too unstable. You can't travel through a timeline you haven't made." Ilara's voice was quiet. "Unless you already did." The ship trembled, gently, like a breath being drawn. A voice echoed inside Rae's head. Not sound, not even thought. Just presence, the Accord, or what remained of it. "This is your divergence. Your inheritance was healing. Your burden is now memory. Will you restore the root or sever it?" Before Rae could speak, the ship responded. The spiral opened fully, and the Erebus Dawn passed through. Worlds that might be. The space they entered was fractured, not in chaos, but in possibility. Each direction shimmered with a different shade of time. Whole timelines layered over one another like veils, glimpsed only as you passed through them. The crew saw flashes outside the viewports, Earths that never rose from the oceans, colonies thriving without war, Accord emissaries standing hand in hand with humanity, and others, Earths hollowed by flame, vaults broken and twisted into weapons, versions of themselves, twisted by the black thread, commanding ships that bled smoke and pain. Jane's voice crackled over the comms. "I'm seeing echoes of us, like memories from someone else's life." Kev muttered, "No, they're not memories, they're forks." Min whispered, "We're inside a decision engine." The ship slowed, gliding between two giant formations, mirror gates, both leading to separate timelines. One pulsed with green light, vibrant and calm. The other flickered in red. Kev scanned both. One leads to a future where the Accord is restored, but the other— Rae closed her eyes. "The other is where the hollow sovereign wins." Ilara's voice came through again. "They want us to choose, to cast our thread into one future. Lock it in." Silence fell over the bridge. This wasn't a fight. This was a vote, a soul-deep decision. One thread, one path. Forever. Rae opened her eyes. "I choose restoration." Threadbound, the moment the words left her lips, the Erebus Dawn was seized, not by force, but by gravity woven from intent. The green gate swelled ahead, absorbing the ship into its center. The fractal timelines around them collapsed, folding inward like petals returning to the stem. And then a flash, then silence, then wind. Not space, not void. The Erebus Dawn sat grounded in a field of tall silver grass beneath a golden sky. Above, massive glyphs floated like clouds, symbols of the Accord, gently drifting as if painted on the air itself. Kev staggered to the viewport. "Where are we?" Min was crying softly. "I think we're home. Not our Earth, but the Accord's origin, the first garden." The ship's systems rebooted. Everything was green, stable. For the first time since their journey began, there was no countdown, no alarm, no breach. Only peace. Then Ilara stepped onto the bridge, but not as Ilara. Her eyes glowed with calm light. Her voice was hers, but echoed by others, countless others. "We are the Accord, and we are healed." Rae stepped forward. "Is it over?" Ilara smiled, 1,000 lives behind her gaze. "Number, but the balance has returned." The crew stood quietly as the wind whispered through the grass. One thread returned, one seed restored. But beyond the garden, others still chose fire, and the hollow sovereign still watched, waiting. The quiet. Before, the garden breathed, a living mosaic of light, sound, and subtle motion. The crew stepped cautiously from the Erebus Dawn, their boots sinking softly into the silver grass. Above, the floating glyphs pulsed with warmth, bathing the landscape in hues of amber and sapphire. Rae felt something she hadn't in months. Hope. Ilara, now fully merged with the Accord's consciousness, guided them through this place. "This is the origin site," Ilara explained, "the wellspring of the seed, the point where all threads converge and diverge." Jane turned to her. "So, this is what the vault was protecting?" Ilara nodded. "More than protection. It's the heart, the seed itself." Kev looked skyward. "Then if the Hollow Sovereign corrupts this place, it ends," Rae finished. "Everything we fought for. Gone." Min shivered. "But how do we stop something that's already started?" Ilara's eyes shone. "We don't stop it. We balance it." Suddenly, the ground trembled. The silver grass bent like a wave, and a figure appeared, massive and regal, shaped of the same fractal light as the progenitor they had met before. But this one was different. It bore two faces, one calm and radiant, the other shadowed and cracked. "The Hollow Sovereign. Come to the garden." Duality, the Sovereign's dual faces, spoke in unison, voices a harmony of light and shadow. "Bearer of the healing thread, you return what was once lost." Rae stepped forward. "We came to restore balance." "Balance," the shadowed face hissed, "or control." "Control corrupts," the radiant face said. "Balance frees." Ilara's voice resonated in reply, layered with the collective Accord's essence. "We choose freedom." The Sovereign's fractured visage cracked further, shifting the landscape around them. The silver grass darkened into ash, the golden sky flickering to dusk. "Then you must prove it," the Sovereign said, "by walking both paths." From the shadows, twin gates emerged, one glowing with emerald fire, the other smouldering in obsidian flame. "Choose your path," it said. "Restore the Accord, or embrace the hollow bloom." Rae looked at her crew. Min's breath caught. "What happens if we choose wrong?" "The garden dies," Ilara said softly. "And with it, all possibility." Rae's hand tightened into a fist. "Then we choose hope." She stepped toward the emerald gate. The emerald path. Rae's boots stepped through the glowing arch of emerald light, and the world around her shifted instantly. The silver grass vanished, replaced by lush green fields stretching beneath a sky painted in soft gold. The air smelled of fresh rain and blooming flowers, and distant melodies whispered on the wind, notes of life, renewal, and endless possibility. Min followed closely, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is everything we fought for," Ilara's voice echoed softly. "This is the heart of restoration." Jane scanned the horizon. "But how do we guard this? Against the Hollow Sovereign? Against ourselves?" Kev looked at the glowing fields. "By remembering where we came from." Suddenly the ground trembled, not with threat, but with invitation. From the earth rose crystalline pillars, shimmering with symbols that matched the ones on the original vault. They pulsed rhythmically, syncing with Ilara's glowing band. Rae reached out, touching the nearest pillar. Visions flooded her mind. Ancient beings tending vast gardens of stars, seeds planted across galaxies, civilizations born from harmony, and the threads of countless lives woven into one eternal accord. She gasped. This is a map of the seed's true legacy." Ilara smiled. "And a promise that even in the darkest places life can grow." A voice called from behind. The shadowed face of the Sovereign appeared, watching silently, waiting. Rae turned. "We will protect this place, no matter the cost." The obsidian trial. While Rae walked the emerald fields, her crew faced a darker challenge. The obsidian gate loomed behind them, swirling with smoky tendrils that whispered fear and doubt. Ilara, Kev, and Jane approached it reluctantly, knowing the hollow sovereign's shadow had not relinquished its claim. Kev tightened his grip on the console, voice low. This is where the broken threads gather, the paths never taken, the wars never ended. Ilara's glow dimmed, shadows flickering across her skin. To face the hollow bloom, we must confront the fear within ourselves. John stepped forward. Then let's not walk this path alone. Together they crossed the threshold. Inside, the air burned cold, thick with echoes of despair. The walls pulsed with dark glyphs, each one a fractured memory, a lost hope, a shattered promise. The sovereign's shadow spoke. Welcome to the mirror of your fears. To survive, you must face what you refuse to become. The trio split, each encountering visions drawn from their own doubts. Kev faced the ruin of his faith in the Accord. Ilara confronted the loss of her identity beneath the thread. Jane battled the weight of his own betrayals. One by one, they overcame their trials, not by strength, but by acceptance. When they reunited, the obsidian gate cracked and crumbled, releasing a burst of dark energy that coalesced into a single twisted seed. Ilara caught it gently. The hollow bloom can be contained, but never destroyed. Unity of threads. Reunited, the crew stepped back into the garden's golden light, the twisted seed cradled carefully in Ilara's hands. The sovereign's dual faces regarded them silently, a shifting expression between approval and lingering doubt. Rae raised her voice. We have faced both paths. We have seen the light of restoration and the shadow of destruction. The radiant face smiled softly. And you carry both within you. The shadowed face nodded slowly. True balance requires acceptance of all threads, the broken as well as the whole. Ilara's voice chimed, layered with the Accord's essence. We bind the threads together, not to control, but to harmonize. Rae stepped forward and extended her hand. The twisted seed began to glow, transforming under their collective will until it shimmered with the same pure light as the original crystal. Around them, the floating glyphs brightened and spun faster, weaving a tapestry of light that spread from the garden to the edges of known space. The sovereign's forms merged into one, neither shadow nor light, but something new, a guardian born of balance. Rae looked at her crew, a new strength rising in her heart. We carry the seed forward, not as a weapon or a cage, but as a living memory. Min smiled. Then maybe we can finally be worthy of it. The garden pulsed once more, alive with endless possibility. And somewhere, deep in the darkness beyond the stars, a faint red pulse flickered, a reminder that the hollow bloom still waits.